Hey there, while you're trying to figure out what should you study for data analytics and data science, Python or R, there is one programming language that's actually level 0 on the scale of languages that you should know for data analytics, and it's SQL. There is definitely no doubt a lot of value in knowing how to use SQL, and in some cases more than 50% of your programming, or even more than that, can come from SQL and writing a lot of queries, trying to get the data from the data sources and databases that are available in the company that you're working for. So I'm gonna try to break down one-on-one the most basic and the most important things to know in SQL for data analytics and data science. If you Google for SQL interview questions, you get something like this. What is the difference between different types of databases? What is a primary key? What is a foreign key? What are the subset of SQL? What kind of SQL languages are there, or dialects of SQL are there? What are constraints? What are the joins? And some of the interview suggestions are not very practical. Of course, it's really good to know what are the joins and what does it mean to have a primary key in your table and how do you use them. But those are not particularly practical, and they are more for people who will work with databases, like data warehouse engineers, but data scientists actually use the products of the data warehouse engineers in their day-to-day work. So the questions there tend to be much more practical. On the level 0, on the level like the basic SQL knowledge, you need to be able to comfortably do the same aggregations, the same calculations that you are comfortable to do in Excel. So if in Excel data source you have some information about, I don't know, purchases or user activity or user type, and if you can calculate their daily active users, monthly active users, spending patterns and things like that, if you can pull up the charts there, then you can and should be able to do the same things in SQL. SQL is immensely powerful and very helpful in data science. In a lot of cases, you will not only have to just extract the data from the databases using SQL, but you'll have to do a lot of data cleaning and manipulations there as well, especially if you work with the bigger data sets with hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions of records. In that case, it might be very inefficient to transfer all this data into Python or R, because they will just generally run much slower than many data platforms like Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud Platform. I will go through an exercise now with a very basic things that pop up during interviews. I plan to do more videos like that, so here definitely this is not a comprehensive overview of all the SQL questions that you can see, but it's a start. We will go through an exercise with BigQuery. That's the database that I use the most. They also have a very efficient querying language that they built based on the one that they internally used in Google for many years, I think. And it's really fast for ginormous data sources and very flexible. It's very similar to general and common SQL dialect, but there are some things that are a little bit different. But don't worry, actually BigQuery has one of the best resources libraries that you can find. I really like to search for answers for questions that I don't know directly there, rather than on Stack Overflow or generally in the internet. Their reference guide is very easy to understand. So without further ado, let's go ahead. Usually when you come to an interview, you will have a couple of questions about how to manipulate data, and the interviewer will give you a couple of tables that you need to extract this information from. Let's start with thinking that we'll have, let's say, an app where we have some users. They can be either free subscribers or premium subscribers or paying subscribers, and we'll have that information about them stored in a table when they are first logged in. So first time when they create their profile, they can either choose the free version of our app or the paid version of our app, and we will get some information about that. We'll call this table user type, and we'll have here user ID, created at, that will be a timestamp, and is a subscriber. Then this is our metadata about our users, and now we need to create a table where we store information about their activity. Usually in the companies, those are like real-time logs that information gets added to when the user actually creates this activity. So pretty much when you click a button in some app, the record about how you did it and when you did it and some metadata about your device and location is sent to store to the company that produced this app. So those are like real-time logs, and we'll have this log as user activity. And we'll have here some information as timestamp. That's usually the one that's always there because it's what obviously helps to identify when the thing happened that we're interested in. A user ID, because we need to know who did the thing that we're interested in. And let's say we have activity ID. It could be anything that we might be interested in, like an ID of a button that the user clicked in, or maybe a string, just like a name of the action, like subscribe or login or whatever. This is a very simplified version. In bigger companies with developed data infrastructure, those are of course much more granular, but we're gonna start with that. So there are plenty of questions that we can already answer with these with this amount of data. Even though it seems like we only have just 2 tables with just a few values, we can start and look at calculating daily active users or monthly active users of the product that we have or the app that we have. We can look at comparing the activity of the users based on their subscription type. We can calculate how many daily new installs we have or monthly new installs based on the first table, user type. We can calculate how many daily new paying subscribers we have as a subset of the daily new installs. New paying subscribers. And then we can look at the activity, so how many of those activities in the user activity table happen per user during different times of day. So because we have the timestamp, we can extract this information. Activity by the time of the day. And pretty much there's plenty already of other opportunities and how you can break down different kinds of users, what kind of information you can extract. You can just look at overall how many users we have, how many users have been deleted if we have this information, just plenty of the things that you can do with very small amount of data, and actually encourage you to just like think about maybe look at these tables, or when you see some interview questions with the table example of SQL, think about how many different questions you can answer with this data, because as a data scientist or data analyst, that's something you will have to do. You will have a limited amount of resources and data to answer pretty much unlimited variety of questions. To support this example, I created a couple of tables, those actual tables in BigQuery. If you have a Google account, you can create yourself this console for Google Cloud Platform where you can actually write queries in BigQuery, but be careful, there is a free tier. You can run a certain amount of querying a certain amount of data, but at some point when you exceed maybe $200 a month or something, you will have to pay for those queries and the data storage. So check out in your, I think it's somewhere under billing. Yes, check out under your billing tab whether you're exceeding your query limits, just so that you don't have to pay. Yeah, I don't have to pay for now. I don't think it's expensive, and I think it's really nice to actually be able to run the queries when you're preparing for interviews. But anyway, so here we have the SQL one-on-one data set that I have created for this exercise, and there are 2 tables, user type. We can preview it and see that we have a few user IDs and their created timestamp and the Boolean flag whether they're a subscriber or not. And then we have user activity table, which we can also preview and see that there's a lot of activity records for different user IDs, for different time steps, and for 2 different activity IDs. First question was to calculate the daily active users or monthly active users of the app, and for that we need to extract information from user activity, so we can click here and see if we can query that. So first we're going to look into what we have in this table, user IDs and activity ID. So to calculate daily active users and monthly active users, generally we want to look at how many unique users were active in any way in this day. When you're going through an interview, of course, you need to discuss with the interviewer how do they define activity. So if they just tell you calculate the daily active users of this product, don't just go ahead and write select count, distinct user ID per date of the timestamp, because maybe that's not how they define daily active users. Maybe that's something that you should discuss with your interviewer. So let's say, yes, daily and monthly activity will be whatever it is. Then we run this query by pressing Command Enter, and we can see that we have quite a few days. It's not sorted, so let's order by. So our daily active users are pretty much 2 or 1 or 3. I didn't have enough time to add there too much information. And also it's easier to double check yourself. So that would be daily active users. We might want to calculate average daily active users per each day of the month. On top of this query, we would want to write another query where we write select average DAU per month. From this query. Now we don't really need an order by anymore. And then we group by 2 again. Then we run this query and we receive a weird result. Yeah, I should have named those columns. But yeah, we have on average 1.87 daily active users in the month of December. However, that's not how the monthly active users are calculated. For the monthly active users, we want to look at all users who were active at least once during the month of December. And then it's pretty much just a little change of our inner query where we're gonna, instead of the date here, we will extract month again. And we should call it me. So in the month of December, we had 5 unique users active. I don't know if you can hear, but I have a little doggo eating her dinner in the corner of my room, so I hope you don't hear too much of the crunching. Well, yeah, let's go. So we calculated daily active users and monthly active users. Now let's say we want to compare the activity of those users based on the subscription type. So let's look again into the monthly active users, but this time we need to join this table with the user type. We'll do it using user ID, and we're doing an inner join. We are making it under the assumption that all the users in our user type table are to some extent present in our user activity table and vice versa. So everyone who's ever logged in into our product or app has the record in user type and user activity. If we wouldn't have that user in the user activity table, then in this case we would just exclude them from our activity calculations. And if we wouldn't have this user in the user type table, but would have them in the user activity, same, we would exclude them from the calculation. So this is under the assumption that we have records for all the users in both of the tables. If we don't, and we want to reflect that, we need to do a different kind of join. For example, left join would be beneficial if we have users in user activity that are not present in user type for some reason. We can do a left join and assign them an unknown subscription type or is subscriber value, because we don't have a record in user type. This is all very important, first of all, to think when you're actually working, but also to talk through during your interview process. So in this case, we not only want to know monthly active users and daily active users, but we also need to look at the is subscriber. And here we'll get our answer. So we have in month of December, we have 3 non-paying subscribers active and 2 paying subscribers active. We answered questions about daily and monthly activity by the type of the app. We can do the same for daily new installs per subscribers. We don't even need to use the activity table here. We can just look at the user type and extract the date from the created date. Let's look at the activity by the time of the day. This is something that's not so frequently, I think, asked or taught during SQL courses, but it's something that will come up so many times during your work, because you will always need to parse timestamps for date time values to be able to cluster the activity per day, per year, per month, per week, per different kinds of week, ISO week, or a week that starts on Sunday, a week that starts on Monday. All this syntax I don't necessarily remember all the time. I need to sometimes Google it, and here I want to show you how easy it is to Google this stuff for BigQuery. For example, we want to format timestamp in BigQuery. And here we have reference informations for timestamp functions in SQL and BigQuery. We just want to look at the format timestamp. So we just want to look at format timestamp. For example, yeah, we have this timestamp in UTC. Pretty much we just can, well, actually here I'd want to have only hour and minute. So let's copy that. So now instead of date, we will look at the hour. And instead of extract timestamp, we will look at the, so we have TS here. We don't want to add this information. And then going back to the reference part, in the bottom part here, you can see the reference guide for the supported elements for timestamp. I constantly use it because most of the things I don't remember by heart. Here we only care about hours, so the 24-hour clock, and minute, which is capital M. So percent H, percent M. Let's add this part, percent M. Hour, minute then. And here active users, we can still do the join on subscriber type. So let's see what this turns back to us. This kind of looks better if we have like ability to chart this data. Do we want to do that? Yeah, let's do that. A little trick that I can show you is that here you can save it into Google Sheets, which is one of the super fastest and easiest way to look at it as a chart to look at this data. So we have this information in the Google Sheets. We're gonna add here a pivot table. Where is it? Data pivot table. Yes. We created a new sheet. In the rows, we're gonna have our minute. It's sorted perfect. In the columns, we're gonna have value. Oh no, in the columns, we're gonna have subscriber. In the values, we're going to have the active. number. Oh, no, we don't need this here. Yes. So now it looks kind of pretty good. We don't really need grand total here and here. And then we can add a chart just easily on top of this. Doesn't look fantastic, but it's something. Maybe if we use this kind of line chart, or maybe probably the bar chart would be better. Yeah. So here we can see the activity for paid subscribers and non-paying subscribers. Not a lot of insight that we can derive from that because of the limited data set. But let's say, yeah, just a lot of them are active at 2 at night, and a bit of the subscribers are active at 1 o'clock. Yeah, if we have more data, of course, that's more information that we can derive from this data source. So I hope this was useful. I'm going to try to continue doing those series and go more into detail of like some functions that you need to do, how to do window functions, how to use case when, how to use different kinds of joins, how to do running total calculations. If you don't want to wait, just Google that yourself. It's really useful and does come up a lot on the interviews, but also something that you'll have to do almost like every day or every other day when you work with data. SQL is very valuable skill that's not that fancy for some reason and not that well known compared to Python, R, or machine learning, even though SQL is like the basis that you need to know to be able to work with data. Hope that was useful. Thank you for listening. Let me know if you have some specific questions about SQL queries, maybe some examples that you want me to look through. Maybe I'll do that in the next videos. And have a nice day.